My girlfriend, 25 female, asked me, 35 male, to unfollow IG models, so I asked her to unfollow bodybuilders. For clarification, we are not talking about famous models or bodybuilders. We are talking about amateur hobbyists. I say this without judgment, but for context. So the other day, she sent me a screenshot of a model she thought was sketchy. Her worry was that her family and friends might see some of the models I follow and would think I'm a creep or something. She made a decent point, so I went ahead and unfollowed several accounts without any argument. A few hours later, I remembered that she followed a lot of amateur male bodybuilders that my family might be uncomfortable with. I sent her some screenshots and said, if I unfollowed models, she should unfollow bodybuilders. After all, what's the difference between a guy posing in a thong and a woman posing in a thong? If one is a sport, the other one is an art, in my opinion. Anyway, she got immediately defensive and said I'm always going tit for tat, then called me insane for comparing the two. I disagreed and told her that my family would view the bodybuilders like hers would view the models. The conclusion that my family might draw is that she's attracted to bodybuilders and I look nothing like a bodybuilder. She looks, and has pics, that look way closer to a model than I look to a bodybuilder. For some additional context, the reason I follow models is because I work in video and have worked with some, not all of them before. I also follow male models. She has no professional reason to follow the male bodybuilders. She has never competed or went to a competition and follows 0 female bodybuilders. In fact, she says the reason she follows them is because they found her IG on dating apps when she was single and she just followed back, as if that's supposed to make me feel any better. After a long argument, she still thinks I'm wrong to compare her request to mine. I can't force her to remove anyone, and I'm not going to break up with her over this, but I feel disrespected and it hurts. How should I handle the situation? Am I wrong and I just can't see it? I just want to clarify one thing because there have been some comments wondering why someone my age has an Instagram in the first place. This is a professional account and my username is the name of my small video production company. I don't post anything personal and only post about once every month. Her account is a personal account and posts almost daily. You shouldn't ask someone to do something if you're not willing to do it yourself. Simple. And second, you're following people due to your literal profession and you're willing to unfollow them. While on the other hand, she follows bodybuilders because they found her on a dating app where obviously they were attracted to her. Like, they are not the same.
My stepmom held me captive for over 10 years. Years later I did the unthinkable. I was grounded from the time I was 8 until I moved out. My stepmom would always find another reason to extend it, no matter how small, even my messy bookcase, and at some point it just became normal that I wasn't allowed to do anything and my dad didn't bother to fight it. And grounding for me didn't just mean I couldn't play video games, it was everything. I had no access to any kind of tech. She took away my alarm clock when she found out I was using the radio on it. I couldn't go outside. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't be up past 8. Yes, even in summer when I was 17. I couldn't leave my room without a good reason. I couldn't pet my dog. I wasn't even allowed to be in my sister's room or talk to her at all. I lost my real mom at 5, and my stepmom came into the picture within a year. I was still nowhere near recovering, and felt like she was trying to replace my mom. So of course I wouldn't call her mom or anything like that. She and my father married when I was 7 without asking me or my sister, 3 at the time. My little sister was only 1 when my mom died, and didn't feel bad letting our stepmom be mom. She didn't even know anything else. She loved my sister and hated me, and I started doing worse and worse in school, giving my stepmom reason enough in my dad's eyes to keep me grounded that whole school year. Every time my stepmom walked in my room, I either had to be reading or writing, and if I wasn't, she would ground me for even longer, and hit me. When I was 9 she found a cover to an adult video DVD I'd found in the trash and beat me with the buckle end of a belt. I didn't even know what the DVD was at the time, I was so young. My stepmom even knew that. But I guess she just wanted a reason to hit me. My grandparents, mom's side, got pictures of the bruises, but were too afraid my dad would move me across the country to do anything. It was enough that she was never physical again, but she just started making me write sentences after that. It started out as, I will not lie 100 times, but that didn't keep me busy long enough, so she kept adding to it every time I did something she didn't like. The worst was when I was 14, and I ate some stevia packets from on top of the fridge, and told her I didn't know where the empty packets came from out of fear. That is when she locked me in my own room and made me write I will not lie, I will not steal. God hates a thief and sin is death. 10,000 times. Over the years of doing this, I developed carpal tunnel in my left hand, the hand that I write with. Whenever I was writing them out, she came by my door, didn't say a word, and just set her belt on the doorknob, and stared at me. If my pencil wasn't on that paper for a second, she would use the belt on me. That was about as bad as it got, and honestly I consider myself lucky it never got worse. I went to my grandparents' house almost every weekend, and they tried to spoil me as best they could. They weren't rich, but they loved me and gave me everything they could. As I got older, I started opening up more and more to my grandparents. I started realizing how much I was abused and mistreated, and told them all of the things she did to me that I never told them before because I thought it was normal. I built a strong case against my stepmother, and my grandparents still had all of the pictures of the marks on my body from years ago. Ultimately, it was a failure. Although she did go to prison, she was in and out within a year. From what I heard, she came out a completely different person. She barely spoke, and when she did, it was in a whisper. She came home with bruises all over arms and legs. Karma really got her good. Have you ever met your celebrity crush? A literal household name celebrity once tried flirting with me and I blew my chance. I've been a huge fan of a specific celebrity for the past 4 to 5 years. I have been maybe her biggest fan. I know her every single song. I must have watched every show she's been on, every interview she's given. I know what shampoo brand she uses. I have posters of her in every single room in my house. I have a blow-up doll which I have dressed like her. I love her music, and I love her personality. She's beautiful and has the kindest heart. I have rubbed one out to her more times than I care to count. Anyways, so a few weeks ago I was abroad for business-related reasons. After a long day of work in a small office, I wanted to walk to my hotel to get some fresh air. On my way there, I saw a bar. It seemed like a quiet place, so even though I was very tired, I went in to see what kinds of beers they had. I sat down and ordered one, and started mindlessly scrolling on my phone so I wasn't alone with my thoughts, as you do when you're sitting at a bar alone. After ordering my second beer, someone said hi. I turned around, and saw her. Like, don't get me wrong, I've met women at bars before, but never had a woman come up to me first, so that was new. And it was her of all people. Her. So of course I thought I must have fallen asleep on my desk at work and I was dreaming. I was freaking out, internally. Externally, I managed to keep my cool, and said hi back. Since I couldn't believe who's standing in front of me, it was more like a nervous and awkward nerdy hi. She said she saw me sitting alone, and she was alone as well, so she thought it might be nice to chat while enjoying our drinks. I said of course, I mean why not, sit, and rather aggressively pulled up a chair. I was very, very excited and nervous. But it seemed like she still hadn't realized I was a fan. I told my name and she said hers, but I didn't say I already knew her because I wasn't sure about revealing that. At first I was a little awkward and talked about the weather, how nice the bar is and stuff. Then we talked for another hour or so. The conversation was going pretty well and thankfully I was much calmer at that point. Then I told her I was in the city for work, and talked about what I do very briefly. She said she was there for work as well, and said she makes music. At that point I thought I had to be honest. I said I know, I'm a huge fan actually, I love your every song, I have all your merch. Her expression quickly changed, from happy to disappointed, and she said oh. That was the moment I realized I messed up. Thinking about it now, maybe not telling that to her a little earlier was a bigger mess up. She said she doesn't think getting close with fans is appropriate. I said, wait, so we were gonna get close? She said nothing in return and changed the subject. It got a little awkward again and we only talked for a few more minutes. She said we could take a selfie if I wanted to, so we did. I offered her my number, and said maybe we could grab a coffee if she ever comes to my country. She accepted it, but probably out of politeness. Then I walked her to her car, and I'll probably never gonna see her in person again outside of a concert. I can't stop thinking about how else that night could go. My fiancée excluded my disabled son from our wedding, so I put her $70,000 in debt. When my wife and I divorced, it was tough on our son Jay. He is autistic and he didn't want to see his parents split up. He didn't want to have to take sides in the divorce. My wife and I decided it would be best if he lived with me. I stayed in our house so I was close to his school and all his friends. A few years after the divorce I met someone. Jeanette was nice and pretty. I thought she was a terrific woman. Jay had a hard time getting used to her. I tried to get them to get along but nothing worked. The most I could say is that they were civil to each other. They didn't fight but my son would just act cold when he saw her. Jeanette tried to be friendly but after a while she just gave up. Jeanette and I had been dating a year and we decided to get married. Jay was 16 at the time. He didn't like the idea of me marrying Jeanette but she was already living with us. It wouldn't affect him much. As soon as the wedding planning started, Jeanette started acting like a total bridezilla. She wanted everything to be her way. She started taking out loans because she wanted a fancy dress and an upscale venue. She started using my credit cards when I told her no. She was literally going crazy. Jeanette took out over $70,000 in loans to make her dream wedding. We agreed that we would split the cost in half in order to pay the loans back after the wedding took place. She started sending letters to my family saying that they better not do anything to ruin the wedding, and if they do they will be kicked out. My parents barely ever spoke to her so I don't know where all of this came from. One day about a week before the wedding Jeanette said she wanted to talk to me about her wedding plans. We had already decided who was going to be in her wedding party but she wanted to make some changes. We both agreed that my son would be the ring bearer but now she said she changed her mind. She said he gave her the creeps. Jeanette told me that she had a vision for the wedding, and my son was not included. She said she would rather have someone else in the wedding party. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I knew my son didn't exactly warm up to her but he was my son. If he couldn't be in the wedding party I wasn't sure I wanted to be either. This made Jeanette even more mad, and demanded that my son is banned from attending the wedding at all. I told Jeanette that either he was in or I was out. She said we couldn't bail on the wedding. We had already spent $70,000 on it and it was too late to cancel. She didn't say anything about losing me or wanting to continue our relationship. That was the last straw. I told her I wasn't interested in marrying her, and I'm out. Since the loans were all in her name, I am not legally obligated to pay any of it. Jeanette is now $70,000 in debt. Me and my son have an even stronger relationship, and I couldn't be more happy in life. Am I the jerk?
Okay, so story time about how my girlfriend cheated on me with my best friend. Come on, ladies, it's not supposed to be us. This is unacceptable. Okay, so a little background information. I was 17 and in 9th grade. Now, I also lived on my own because when I came out to my parents, they pretty much just kicked me to the curb whenever I was in 7th grade. But here's the thing, right? My girlfriend and my best friend had a hate-hate relationship. Like, they could not fucking stand each other. So I thought. Anyways, they would fight about who would get to spend time with me on what days. It was ridiculous. I mean, other than that though, everything was good. Up until there was some very sus activity going on. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I did low-key feel like my girlfriend was cheating on me because of the very obvious red flags that I just so happened to ignore, per usual. Anyways, sign number one should have been the fact that every time she was on her phone, she would make sure that her brightness was all the way down, and she would always kind of, you know, turn it away from me whenever I would, you know, be next to her. Well, now on to my best friend. All of a sudden, she has everybody and their mother trying to make plans for her, and she has no time for me at all. And I'm not gonna lie, you guys can call me dumb for this one.
This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life.
I was over my girlfriend's house the one day, and she has this one sweatshirt that she really likes. I really like it too. So I go to grab it and it's not there, and I ask her where it is, and she's like, oh, my sister must have took it on vacation with her. So, you know, I'm like, okay, I brush it off. Well, a few days later, I go over to my best friend's house, and she comes and opens the door, and y'all already know, she's wearing the sweatshirt.
Oh my god! Wow!
But you know, because her and my girlfriend hated each other so much, I believed her when she told me that it was her boyfriend's.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is the part where it kind of seems like I'm intentionally being delusional.
Too damn bad!
So the one day I go over to my girlfriend's house and I look over by her closet and I see this weird looking case on the ground. Now, my best friend would wear fake lashes, okay? And she had a case that she would put them in, and she wrote her initials on the bottom. So I go over there, I grab it, and I'm like, what's this? And she's like, I don't know. And then I'm like, I didn't know you wear lashes. And then she goes, I don't, they're probably yours. Like, girl, I think I would know if these are mine. Anyways, I turn the case over, and what do you know? It is my best friend's initials, but they're super faded. Well, I would say what finally snapped me out of that fucking delusion that I was in was the one day whenever my girlfriend came over to my house, and she had just got done with basketball practice. So she went to go and take a shower. I took it upon myself to go through her phone. Like, I was tired of playing these games with her because girlie was acting sus, and I had to figure out what the was going on. Well, good thing I did, because the shit that I found, whew. When I went through her phone, I saw that her and my best friend had been each other, you know, sending nudes and everything else. So I took screenshots of everything, and I'm just gonna put this out here right now. I am that bitch who's so fucking extra. Like, do not play with me, please do not. So with that being said, you guys want to know what I did? Did I confront them about it? No. Did I send the videos and pictures of them to their parents? No. Instead, I printed out over 100 packets with all of these pictures and text messages, and I stapled them all together very neatly, and then I handed them out to the whole school. And then I gave them to their parents. Because you guys want to be messy, we can be messy.
You know, I had to double it.
Obviously, after this, I break up with Ashley. I don't even think I really needed to break up with her at that point. I think that it was already implied that that's what was happening. I haven't seen either of them since that whole situation. Oh, and I also heard that they got into a ton of trouble with their parents. Also, I kind of screwed up Ashley's social life. Not kind of, I did. Because Ashley was one of those people that everybody liked, but I guess not anymore. Karma's a bitch, but I'm worse. So next time you want to play games, play with your mama, not me.
What crazy secret was revealed when cleaning out the home of a deceased family member? My great-grandmother was a makeup consultant for Mary Kay for over 50 years. She had money, a nice house, was an amazing and sweet lady. She even had a celebration event at Mary Kay for how much of a dedicated worker she was, and one of Mary Kay's grandchildren came down to personally thank her himself. All I knew of her was that she was amazing and sweet, but according to my mom and the rest of my family, there was a psychotic side to her. According to them, once someone became 18, she got involved in a dope ring, and was a girl whose purpose was to distract police, seduce customers and so on. She was also an intimacy worker and a very well-known one at that. Apparently she never touched dope herself, but ran with some dangerous people. When she finally passed away, my mom and other family had to clean out her house. In her office there was a closet and bookshelf full of books related to intimacy and fashion. In the closet were 2 boxes containing books that were almost 50 years old. One box had an intimacy Bible with a bunch of information on positions for getting pregnant, positions for more enjoyment, and ways to spice up intimacy and make it more fun. There was another book in these two boxes that was important to note, but it wasn't a book, it was a journal she wrote in, a journal dating almost 45 years worth of biographical information. A lot of the info within this journal was about her intimacy life, how good intimacy felt, how much fun she had, a brief summary of her intimacy life before the point she started the journal. There was a chapter within which she heavily focused on her intimate attraction to animals, and then the rest was the almost 45-year journey she had with a man named Russ, who she went into extreme detail with. She described the length of his member, how thick it was, the girth, how good it felt, and she went into very verbose and honestly professional writer levels of detail about how great everything was. Excluding those two books, there were a bunch of pictures taken of her and Russ doing these activities. Honestly, it doesn't ruin how I perceive my great-grandmother at all. In fact, it makes me think of her in an even better light, knowing this short and sweet old lady was the most intimacy-crazy lady I'd ever meet. And to be honest, if her brain game was as good as she describes in her journal, I would not have minded too much. A bonus thing they also found in her house is a journal dating back from the 19th century, where apparently an ancestor of mine actually invented a prototype version of the cotton gin almost a year before Eli Whitney, but my ancestor didn't know they'd have to patent it to actually take